Welcome to another episode of the Empowered Half Hour, and I am so thrilled and honored to bring you today's guest, Rashim Mogha, and she is the founder and CEO of eWOW, and I met her when she was putting on the last conference for eWOW, which was a global women's summit of empowerment. It was amazing. I got to be a speaker, and it was delightful to be a part of it. So Rashim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Becca. And you forgot to mention that you are also the winner of the top 5 Empowered Women of the World awards. So let's not forget that. And let's make
Yes,
that.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I humbly accept. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm so happy to have you on the podcast because we share a common theme in our name brand, which is empowerment. This is the Empowered Half Hour. You have eWOW. I would love for you to tell the listeners a little bit about eWOW. What does it mean? What does it stand for? And then I want to hear the backstory to why you founded it.
Absolutely. So eWOW is the Empowered Women of the World initiative. It was founded in 2018. And basically, what it is an intellectual platform that empowers women to discover, visualize, and actualize their success through community, coaching, celebration, and connection. And that's
Awesome.
what eWOW is all about. And I think the most important word in this entire 2 lines of description that I had, Becca, is their success. Because so many times as women, and specifically women of color, our success is so defined by what society expects from us, how people want us to behave, whether we are married or not, whether we have kids or not, do we have a high paying job, do we have a good paycheck or not. But that's not what really our success is. Everybody's definition of success is so different. And I realized that through my career and my journey as well, in terms of how different my success was from what others were defining it. So we wanted to make sure that that comes in through the message and through the values of Empowered Women of the World initiative.
I love that so much. And I got the goosebumps as you were talking because breaking societal norms is like a passion of my own. And I have learned through, I'm not a woman of color, but I am a woman in tech, and I've been in tech for almost 20 years. So I've been a minority, and I've also just had all the societal labels. Like when I was in college, for an example, I wasn't going to be a high performance salesperson or an engineer in tech, or I was going to be a teacher because that's what I was told, like good girls do, right? And I had to find my own path. And as I have grown in my own career and have helped other women grow and other people too grow in their careers, I'm like, you need to define what success looks like for you. So you are speaking my own language. I love it. I'd love to talk about that a little bit more though. What have you found to be a result of women defining success as their own?
Yeah, and this is important, and it goes back down to the backstory a little bit, Becca, in terms of
Yeah, I want to hear more about the backstory too. Yes.
Yeah. So I moved to United States in 2005, basically trying to escape an arranged marriage and coming to another country to figure out my dream life,
Wow.
and define my life on my own terms. And I was well educated. I was in technology. And when I got here, I thought life would be easy. Little did I know that I would have different kinds of struggles over here. Being a woman of color in technology was not easy. It was not easy at large corporations where we still talk about diversity and how they are bridging the gap. 15 years ago, the story was very, very different. I was paid less as compared to my counterparts
Sure.
because
I
I
have
was a
that story
woman.
too.
I had a manager who come in and said, see, notice the color of your skin, and that's why you're paid less, and say that to my
Oh
face.
my gosh. I knew a little bit of your story, but I didn't know that. That's
Yes. And
hardcore.
then I
Wow.
started speaking about it openly. It was in 2018 when I was speaking at Women Transforming Technology, which is an initiative between VMware and Stanford. And as I walked down the stage after delivering Fast Track Your Leadership Career, that was the name of my session, a few women leaders came to me and said, Rashim, do you have a book on this topic yet? And I said, no, I don't have it yet, but I'll have one soon. So that day, while driving back from Palo Alto to Livermore, I was making frenetic calls to all my friends who had published books, asking them for a publisher. 3 months later, we published Fast Track Your Leadership Career. 11 hours into its release, it was an Amazon bestseller in its category. And then people started reaching out to me. Not just women, but men and people from LGBTQ plus community reached out to me and said, how do we take this conversation forward? And that's how eWOW was born.
Wow, I get the goosebumps. That's really
Now, the
incredible.
product leader in me said, I need to build out a platform first. I need to invest in a product that I can put out there. And the innovative, think, act fast business leader said to me, what can I do today? And that's how we launched the eWOW podcast. And eWOW podcast, as Becca, has audienceship in 60 plus countries, available on 11 platforms. And that's how it was born. So the impact
Wow.
that I see every single day when women leaders or even people of color or people of LGBTQ plus community, and now a lot of men too who are allies and who are still, I hadn't explored that side, but I see a lot of men also driven by societal norms and
Oh, yes.
feeling the pressure to be the provider, to be that one person that the family can look up to. And that pressure is enormous. Like, how do
Yes.
they define their success? So, over years, what I've seen is it's not just women who are benefiting from this initiative and what we talk about through our coaching programs and in our virtual summits. It's also male allies, it's LGBTQ plus community. And the impact has been anywhere from you helped me realize that I was putting wrong definition around my happiness to I grew 10x in last 5 years because of the way now I'm using my skills to grow my career. And that impact has been enormous. I receive emails every day. I just received an email from somebody who said, I was scared to speak in meetings about the contributions that I was making. And after the program, which is our Career Accelerator program, and I'm going to talk about it a little more later on, but after the Career Accelerator program, I could go and talk to the C-level execs about the program that I'm driving. And I was invited in a townhouse to talk about the feature set. That is the impact. And that's what we want to drive through the eWOW initiative.
I love that you have said impact so many times, because part of what I have learned, and it's part of my brand too, is elevate your impact. Because one of the things that I have seen, and I hear that you not only teach this, but you've experienced it through your own transformation, is that when you align to your definition of success and you are in alignment to creating a life and a work and your work that feels meaningful to your values, your impact increases like 10 times.
Because then you're being your authentic self, because now you're not faking it anymore, because now you are like, this is the whole me, and I bring in all my life experiences and my diversity of thought and all the skills that I have that you might not even know that play such a big role in creating inclusive products and services. Now I'm doing all that to build something that's meaningful to our customers.
I love it so much. I love it. I can feel your passion coming through too, which is awesome. So I want to ask another question. So we heard about your background and why you started the eWOW platform. And now I want to know, like, what were some lessons or some challenges that you've learned in standing up a platform that is highly impactful to others?
Yeah, the first conflict was like, do I act as a product leader or do I act as a business leader, right? Becca, as you know, I've had a very successful career as a tech exec and as a business leader in companies like AWS, Oracle, VMware, Skillsoft, and I have driven multi-million $100 initiatives. So when you start thinking about that, and when you come from a SaaS world, it's very different than starting something of your own and starting thinking, how do I start small and scale it? Yes. Now, I've done it in the cushion of large corporations or pretty stable startups, but having to think about what my first product or offering is going to look like was a hard choice. And really, that product leader versus a business leader conversation is something that you're constantly going to have. The other piece was in terms of defining the niche, right? I was a woman of color in technology, but I'm also an author. I'm a public speaker. I am a podcaster, a YouTuber. I do career coaching. So how do I define myself? That was the struggle that I had to deal with before I could come up and talk to other women about it. And the biggest thing for me was to accept the fact that I'm so much more than my job title and the industry that I sit in. And
I
then
love that.
bringing that conversation into two other women as well. And that is the part that I really want to drill down into and want to make sure that everybody understands you are so much more than the company and the title that you have right now. Those are variables, they'll keep changing. If you
Yes.
start defining yourself with the job title and the company that you work for, your identity is always going to be changing and you would not know which identity
Yes.
you want to
And
go
then you
with.
put yourself in a box. One challenge. So I had a very similar challenge. And then I found another challenge was that as I was redefining myself out and over beyond being a salesperson and technology, I ended up like blocking that piece out. I pivoted so far that I felt like I wasn't owning all of me. And so there's this alignment thing that it's so cool and I can see you're ready to say something, but it's so cool when you start off on your own and you're starting to develop your brand because you get this chance to finally set yourself free from all the previous definitions. And in my case, I did a really good job standing everything else up, but I kind of forgot the salesperson piece. And I was like, hey girl, come back in.
Here is the thing, Becca, and I did some research on this because people would always reach out to me and say, I feel conflicted. Like, which identity do I want to go with? How do I want to put myself out on LinkedIn? And do I call myself this or do I call myself this? And I thought to myself, when I look at all successful CEOs in the world,
Yes.
they never have that conflict. They're CEOs of the company. They're also on board of various companies. They go out and speak. They write books and they embrace all of it. So why do
Yes.
people who are yet not there at the CEO level, who are moving towards that, feel that conflict, feel that they're taking something away from their job to spin out or to leverage other skill sets that they have? They
Yes.
shouldn't,
I
right?
agree wholeheartedly.
These CEOs bringing all the experiences as board members, as speakers, as authors, and bring that back into their leadership. And that's what we should all be looking at.
I love that you said that so much. So, listeners, this is a really important conversation that Rashim is having right now because, in the Empowered Half Hour, we have a lot of working professionals that are trying to stand up. I call it their right? They have this and that. And then the conflict starts of, should I keep them separate? And I am very much on the same page as you. I've learned this through going through the process. The more I am one, like the CEO you're talking about, is the more that I am one, the more impact I have in my business at Cisco and the more impact I have in my business at Powers Peak Potential. I can do both. And the more I align as one, the results are good everywhere.
Yeah, and then I have realized that with my brand value, I bring so much value to the company that I work for.
Yes.
Because now, when you talk, Becca, so you have your brand value, and now when you go into a sales conversation, your clients already feel the power of your brand and want
Oh,
to
they do.
associate with you, right?
100%.
It was the same with me. And when I was at Skillsoft leading their largest business unit, I already had a very established brand. So the moment I walked in, CNBC wanted to talk to me and Fox News
Ooh.
wanted to talk to me. And I
I
did
love
all
that.
that and brought that credibility to my role and credibility to the company that I was working for at that time. So that's why, it's important to embrace all of you when you start taking this journey towards your happiness. And you'll be surprised that the biggest hurdle in that whole process is your own mindset rather than anybody else's.
1,000%. And that's a really good pivot point to another question that I want to ask you. So now that you're where you're at, what's the current aha that's up for you?
The current AHA is our Career Accelerator program, the impact that it is making right now. Being a leader and being a hiring manager for 20 plus years, having led multi-$100 million business units, whenever I've talked to the HR teams to bring in a leadership development program for my team, they put out a set of 20, 25, 30 competencies that somebody needs to develop to be a leader. And that gets complicated.
It
I've
does.
been part of highly impactful leadership programs where I've gone in, 5 days you're in the room with everybody who is the cream of the organization and top performers, and you go through that program, you identify your red, blue, green colors, or you identify where you are on the predictive index. There are a lot of aha moments. You come back and you put all that aside and say, this does
And
not
go back to
apply
work.
to my work. Let me do this, and I'll come back someday when I'm in ideal situation. And that was the most frustrating part for me. So
Sure.
when we did our research at the eWOW initiative, we identified 6 competencies, 6 growth drivers that you need to master to be successful in any role at any level. It's storytelling, it's negotiating, it's influence, it's about how to manage up, down, and across, it's how to manage your own emotions, and then work on the mindset, skill set, and tool set aspect of it to address those. And that is the aha moment. The testimonials that I get, the impact that it is making.
Awesome.
When people come back and say, because of this program, I'm finally visible in my organization, that's the impact that I'm talking about. When people say that I am now able to have my promotion conversation confidently rather than realizing that it was a bad decision to talk about a promotion within 5 minutes of a meeting, that's impact for me.
Awesome.
And those are the aha moments, those are the stories, Becca, that give me pure joy.
I can tell. It's like radiating through you. So I want to move into another question. We talked a little bit earlier about mindset, and it's one of your 6 principles that are available in your career driver or your career accelerator. But let's talk about mindset. If someone was able to define their own meaning of success and really get aligned to the truth of who they are, and they're starting their brand or whatever that means to them, and they're doing both, how could it empower their life?
I think the biggest piece is, and I have realized this throughout my personal experience, even though we often don't articulate it, when you don't have to hide a self of yourself, when you can
Isn't
bring
it refreshing when you
it's
don't
just
have
so
to hide?
refreshing, like be you,
Ah,
right?
freedom.
And just come in as you are, right? And you feel that confidence in yourself to be able to show up. And you have seen me, Becca, how informal our virtual summits are. And they're informal because we want to remove the pressure on
Yes.
the tightness, if you will, of showing up just as a professional. You are a human being first. Bring your whole self in. We are mothers, we are caretakers,
I get the
we are
goosebumps as you say that. I couldn't agree more.
we are business leaders. This is our whole self. There's so much that intersects the transferable skills. So that is the biggest piece. Like when you show up as you are, you can make an impact. And I've realized that my products, my services, not just within Empowered Women of the World initiative, but also leading these multi-million $100 businesses, they improved the way I looked at it. The way I looked at transformational technologies like AI and cloud computing has
100%.
changed because I can bring in my whole self into the conversation.
So there's something that you said in that I want to kind of just talk about a little bit further, and it was transferable skills. So I realize this when I'm working with my women's groups specifically, and they're looking to go into another career, or they're looking to start their consulting or coaching business and building their brand. I have seen that transferable skills, they think they're starting over, And so I love that you said transferable skills, because I would just want to give the listeners permission to be your whole self, like Rashim's saying, and that what you've done your entire career is transferable to whatever you're doing next, and whatever you're doing next is transferable to your current career. And I don't know if you want to say anything else to that, but I felt like that was worth double clicking on because it's so powerful.
It's so funny you mentioned that, Becca. I was delivering this career workshop at Fortune 100 company, and I won't name the company, but it was for leaders, and we had both men and women in that group. And when we started talking about superpowers, and that's one of the elements that I talk about in our book as well, and we talked about skills, that could be your superpower. I had men write 6 pages. Like they kept on writing about what all they're good at. And I had a woman leader who was so competent and felt so comfortable. And she sat there blank looking at me and she said, Rashim, I don't know. Sometimes I feel I'm just good at organizing birthday parties. And I was like, wow. And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you realize that that coordination piece in bringing everybody together is such an important transferable skill that works in
Wow.
your project management, in your program management efforts, in your product management, in your sales roles, right? When
Yes,
you have to fill in the RFPs and get everybody coordinated to build those RFPs, right?
100%.
And I was like, that doesn't come easy to people. And how could you not just think about it and up level yourself from organizing birthday parties? And clearly, she was good at a lot of things because she was one of the leaders in that group who was recommended for the program. But it's amazing to see how sometimes we shrink ourselves,
Yes.
right? We can't build out a picture from an event. And that is part of the mindset that we work on in this Career Accelerator program
I
as
I
well.
am so happy that you brought it back to the Career Accelerator, because I do want to encourage the listeners that if you're resonating with this episode, that you reach out to Rashim and her program. She'll share them all in a few minutes, but I got to work with her behind the scenes and I definitely put my stamp of approval on it. So the work that you do is just so important. So thank you for doing what you do. And P.S., if you hear any noise in my background, if it's being picked up by the mic, listeners, that is Bella, my French bulldog, snoring again, and I can't do anything about it. But we have about 5 minutes left, and I do want to ask you one more question, because it's one of my favorite questions to ask, and it oozes through everyone pretty much in the episodes. But why are you passionate about what you do?
Becca, I waited too long to give back. That's the biggest regret that I have.
Love that.
I thought that I had to be at a certain level and I had to prove myself. I had to break various glass ceilings to be able to build that credibility around myself to be able to give back. Little did I realize that you can give back at every level where you are. You don't need to
Beautiful.
hold a title or a position at a company to be able to give back. And most importantly, you're breaking glass ceilings every single day at every layer. So that is what is my biggest regret, right? And that's what I look forward to every single day. Like, how can I empower? I'm very impatient, right? I'm not willing to wait for another 110 years to see gender parity, to see pay
Yes.
parity. I'll be
Preach.
dead by then, right? My daughter probably would be in her 80s or 90s by that time. I do not want that.
Yes.
I have an audacious dream of seeing this world as an equitable world. And I know that each one of us has the power to come together and do that and make it happen.
Oh my gosh, I got the goosebumps, and I feel your passion, and I feel the meaning behind it. Like, it really gives you a sense of purpose. And I love that you're getting to do what you love to do and making a difference in the process. Like, keep going, keep going.
Every small little step in the right direction counts. That's how I look at it.
And that's a really good takeaway for the listeners too. I know sometimes when we're planning new things and we've got big lofty dreams, or we've got a big difference we want to make, we're seeing the outcome and it seems so overwhelming.
Yeah.
But as Rashim said, just take a small step in that direction, because there's a saying that I have, but there's a beautiful unfolding. I would have never known how this all would unfold. It was impossible to know what my journey was going to look like. But with each step, a new piece unfolded. And just like for you, every time you took a step, a new piece unfolded, a new idea came, a new connection came. And then slowly you build this world that is powerful, meaningful, difference making. It's just really incredible.
What's the maximum that's going to happen if you take the risk? You're not going to be successful in what you want to do, or successful look different. That's okay. You learn
Yeah,
something in the process, right?
I love that. Yes, ma'am. So I know we're coming up on time. So let's take a second to share with the listeners how they can stay in touch with you.
So, the best way to stay in touch with me is to connect with me on LinkedIn. There's only one of Rashim Mogha on LinkedIn. I'm lucky up until now. So, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you are really interested in the Career Accelerator program or want to explore more. Go to our website, ewowglobal.com, and you can find the details over there. You can also find me on YouTube and TikTok. I will say I'm not very active on TikTok, but I try to do an okay job over there.
That's funny. I'm working on it myself. I haven't mastered it yet. So, all right. Well, let's close this session out with an empowering statement for the listeners.
Keep empowering the world and keep empowering yourself.
I love love it. Well, Rashim, thank you so much for being a guest. It was awesome to have you.